Researchers have studied how different categories of peer acceptance are related to different developmental outcomes. So, peer acceptance refers to likability, or the extent to which a child is viewed by a group of age mates as a worthy social partner. So, the way that researchers look at peer acceptance is literally asking children to kind of vote for their peers. So what we see is that there are 4 general categories of social acceptance. Popular children who receive many positive votes, meaning they're well liked. Rejected children who get many negative votes, meaning they're disliked. Controversial children who receive many votes, both positive and negative. And neglected children who are seldom mentioned either positively or negatively. So one thing that's important to remember here is that about 2/3 of students in elementary school fit in one of these categories, and then the other third are average in peer acceptance. So take a minute and try to think of people from your schools who fit into these categories. So the popular children are going to be the children, again, who are liked by many classmates. They're typically skilled academically and socially. They're good students who are usually friendly, cooperative, and helpful. They're more skilled at communicating and better at integrating themselves into an ongoing conversation or play session. Popular children can be broken down into 2 different categories. So popular prosocial children are going to be the kids who combine academic and social competence. Popular antisocial children would include kind of like the tough boys. They might be athletically skilled but poor students who cause trouble and defy adult authority. It would also include the relationally aggressive boys and girls who enhance their own status by ignoring or excluding or spreading rumors about other children. So your prototypical popular antisocial child would be someone like Regina George from Mean Girls. Rejected children are disliked by many classmates. They're socially awkward. They can be aggressive. They're often rejected because they rely on an aggressive interpersonal style. So these children are not only overly aggressive, they also might be hyperactive, just kind of socially unskilled and not able to regulate their emotions. Other rejected children, so those would be the rejected aggressive kids, and then other rejected children are rejected withdrawn, and these are going to be the kids who are very shy, withdrawn, timid, lonely. So rejected aggressive children are like the bullies, and then the rejected withdrawn children are especially likely to be targets of peer victimization. So that verbal or physical attack on another peer. And then controversial children, they display both positive and negative social behaviors, and this explains why they have like and dislike votes. Controversial kids might be like your class clown, so some people really like them and some people don't. And then neglected children, they're often ignored by their classmates. They were actually once thought to be in need of treatment, but what we see is they're actually just as socially skilled as average children. So I'd like you guys to think a little bit about the consequences of peer relationships. You know, peer acceptance is a powerful predictor of psychological adjustment. So we see that rejected children are typically anxious, unhappy, disruptive. They've got lower self-esteem. Peer rejection in middle childhood is strongly associated with poor school performance and antisocial behavior, even delinquency in adolescence, and criminality in early adulthood. So compared to popular children's parents, those of rejected children are typically inconsistent in their discipline. They're not warm. They're not loving. Ultimately, they have children who are basically just imitating their behaviors. So when we think about what influences peer acceptance, we can think about both children's characteristics and parenting practices. So genes, behavior, and the environment, as we know from the epigenetic framework, are all mutually influencing each other. So the child's personal characteristics, having a warm parental relationship, that's very important, and having an environment where children are accepting of others is also important. So what we see then is that peer rejection can be traced to the influence of parents. Friendly and cooperative parents usually demonstrate effective social skills, whereas belligerent or combative parents demonstrate tactics that are less effective. So parents are going to contribute to their children's social skills through their disciplinary practice. So let's talk, finally, we'll end this chapter by talking about aggressive children and their victims. Researchers have identified 3 forms of aggressive behavior: instrumental aggression, hostile aggression, and relational aggression. So instrumental aggression is when a child uses aggression to achieve a goal. So you push someone into their locker so you can take their homework and use it as your own. Hostile aggression is unprovoked. Its primary goal is simply to intimidate, harass, or humiliate another individual. And then finally, relational aggression is when children try to hurt others by undermining their social relationships. So relational aggression basically is Mean Girls. The movie Mean Girls. So children's tendencies to behave aggressively are stable over time. Some of the long-term outcomes of childhood aggressing include poor adjustment to high school, unemployment, and violent behavior in adulthood. So chronic victims of aggression then are often lonely, anxious, depressed. They don't like school. They have very low self-esteem. And so there are 2 types of individuals who are more likely to become victims themselves. Victims of aggression become victims either because they are aggressive themselves, so maybe they overreact, they're restless, they're easily irritated, or they're easily baited. Victims can also be victims because they're just withdrawn and submissive. Maybe they're unwilling or unable to defend themselves from overly aggressive peers. So you guys, obviously it is never the victim's fault for being bullied, but there are ways that you can teach a victim to deal with aggression. So first, they can be encouraged not to respond when they're insulted and not to show fear. We see that increasing a child's self-esteem makes them feel less tolerant of personal attacks. And if victims can foster friendships with peers, that's also really effective. Sometimes we've seen that it really just takes one person to stand up and speak out if there's bullying going on, and that can stop the aggression right in its tracks.